All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to our SBDC final Friday webinar for this set. It's a Memorial Day weekend. Looks like we got a little lower attendance than normal, but we've had quite a few people, unbelievable amounts of people that have been watching them on our YouTube and website channels. So we're excited. We've had some people say they couldn't make it today, so we'll be posting it on our normal places, on our website, and on YouTube as well. So we'll have that up. Probably won't be until next week. So, but we are excited. We've got a great topic today. Every business, I think, needs to hear this kind of information, especially with everything that's happening cyber-wise out in the world, and I'm sure she'll talk about it today. I've got to slip out for a funeral, but we're going to hand the screen over. If everyone has, if they have any comments or questions, please put them in the chat box, and then at the end of the meeting, Laura will answer any questions for those people who have microphones at the end. The topic for today is top tips for protecting your dollars, data, and business. I think it's a great topic. And we're excited to have Laura Matthews from our office, state office with the SBDC out of Boise. What region is that, Laura?
Region 3 is with us, but our state office covers the whole state, so we're here to help you guys directly.
Awesome. So with that brief introduction, I will turn the screen and everything over to Miss Laura Matthews out of Boise. Thank you, Laura, for everything. Since I won't be able to say that at the end, I will say it now, and the floor is all yours.
Awesome. Thank you. So one thing, just housekeeping as we get started, as Brian said, that I can answer questions from the chat box. The way my screens are set up, I won't see those questions until the very end. I'll bop over. So I apologize if you want a question answered right away as I'm talking about a specific topic, but we'll look at them at the end. And so this topic is big. The cybersecurity topic is really big. I'm going to try and talk a little quick. Like Brian said, we'll be able to have this online later, and you can have access to the PowerPoint to review anything if I go over it too quickly. But I want to give kind of a big, broad look at everything cyber as it pertains to small business. And as he said, this is important for every business. And yes, that is true. This is so essential for every business, you know, whether you're open yet, you've been in business for a long time, whether it's just you or you have a staff of 10, whatever it may be, cybersecurity is so important. And so we're going to try and give you some tips and definitions of what it all means. So let's get started. So being cyber secure, what does that mean? So the definition of cyber secure is, you know, boring and long, an activity or process, ability or capability, blah, blah, blah. You can protect your information. It's heavy, it's long, but basically being cyber secure to me is just taking some great precautionary steps to make sure that your data is being managed safely and to have a plan in place in case the worst, a cyber attack does happen. At the bottom you'll see nobody is ever 100% covered from cybersecurity, and I think that because of that, it's a daunting task to become cyber secure. And people think if I can't protect myself 100%, then I'm not going to at all. I have other bigger fish to fry. That's not really advisable, and even though you can never be fully protected, you can really reduce your risk of an attack pretty significantly. So some very basic steps, many of which don't cost money at all, just a little time, can reduce your risk by about 80%. Okay, sorry, this page didn't fully launch. I was going to put some scary statistics in there for you, but basically about 60% of small businesses that are attacked don't survive 6 months. So I think that for me has been the aha moment in this, the research of cybersecurity. So that to me is the big point. That is the scary stat. 60% of small businesses that are attacked do not survive for 6 months. Small businesses are incredibly vulnerable. About 43% of all attacks are targeted to small businesses. So I'm just saying that at the beginning. I'm saying a couple scary stats just to bring awareness that small businesses are are vulnerable. I think people think big businesses are vulnerable because there's more money, more data to be found, but big businesses have a lot of resources. So they have teams of 5, 10, 20, 100 staff who are dedicated solely for cybersecurity. And hackers know that small businesses don't have those resources. So that's probably all I'm going to say in the doom and gloom, or I'm going to try and not be too doom and gloom, but I wanted to say that at the beginning just to make sure, just to point out that this is a real threat for businesses. And again, the good news is there are some really basic tips that everybody can take that can get them in a much more secure place. So let's cover some of those. First is educating yourself. It's a process. It's a long process. Here at the SBDC, it's an ongoing task for us to understand the breadth of cybersecurity and all the new things that are coming online, because hackers are smart and they adapt to the protections that we create. So you're probably never going to know everything, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't know anything. I put this slide here, the 4 stages of competence. This is just kind of showing like where you can be. You know, maybe you're in the unconscious incompetence phase right now where I don't know what I'm doing, maybe I'm doing it wrong, I don't care. It's a long time to get to the skilled unconscious competence phase, but any change, any market change in your business is going to be a good one. So I say educating yourself is tip number 1, and you're on this call. So you have your head out of the sand, you are interested and engaged in doing the things that you can do to protect your business. So everything you're going to hear on the rest of this call is a great step to giving you direction of what to do. The number 3 step I have is take a business assessment. Because we're short on time, I'm not going to click through and show all of the assessments that are available, but there's a variety of kinds. There's a quick risk assessment that's a little checklist, and if your score adds up to medium or high risk, then you have to decide what kind of changes you're going to make. The Delaware SBDC put together a really great 30-minute online assessment, and I know 30 minutes is a lot of time to dedicate, but it asks you specifics about your business, and it just goes through them, and after each, there's 5 little chapters, it kind of digests where you're at. You print out everything that you answered and received as feedback, and it gives you kind of a little path of where to go. Michigan's assessment is more broad. It doesn't talk about your business specifically, but it gives you definitions and asks you general questions about cybersecurity topics so that you can understand better just the general terminology and things we're working with. And then it actually has 4 avatars that describe, you know, I'm a hacker or I'm a coffee shop owner, and it describes their position in cybersecurity as it pertains to that question. So it's a little briefness about those assessments, but they're all on idahosbdc.org/cyber. That's our go-to place for all of our resources. And they're great places for you to gauge really quickly where you're at with your business. Another way to educate yourself is to sign up for the Ouch newsletter. Again, that's on our website, a link to that. This website sends only 1 email a month, which I think is really reasonable to receive. It's not going to bombard your email, but it focuses on one topic. So it's like a 1.5-page newsletter, and it just talks about, you know, this month it was a little less specific to small business, but it was how to make sure your kids don't create a vulnerability in cybersecurity. Other times it focused entirely on just making a strong password. So it's really a short amount of information, but if you want to just slowly integrate new knowledge once a month, I think is a reasonable amount to get a newsletter on cybersecurity topics. So now we will talk about some initial terminology, because I don't know the full breadth of who's on the call, but I want to talk about some of the hot words right now in cyber attacks. So first, we've got phishing, and the definition right there is fraudulent emails that from seemingly reputable sources designed to deceive the recipient into revealing personal information. So this is the prince from Nigeria that would like some money from you because he needs something. These emails are very common. Your spam is probably catching a lot of them, but they work really well. So we know, everybody knows somebody who clicked on it and then got hacked. Our BSU, Boise State, where I'm housed, they have anecdotal stories. Every week some new attack is coming through. They're very common. Your employees are your gatekeepers, as I'll say later, and so it's very important for everybody to be familiar about phishing, because it's just as simple as somebody getting an email that they think is real, and that opens the door to chaos. Spear phishing, as the name kind of indicates, is a more specific phishing attack. So that is when somebody has used social engineering to figure out something specific about you. And so the email you're receiving isn't just generic, I'm the prince from Nigeria. It's, hey, Bob, I know your friend Susie, and I just wanted to talk to you. We're planning a birthday party for her. Click here for her invite. Maybe he found out your name on Facebook, and maybe he looked at your mutual friends and saw that you have a friend named Susie. So social engineering means that they've been able to find some way to know specifics about your life. LinkedIn, my example is LinkedIn is basically a biography of you. It tells somebody what school you went to, it tells them their whole lineage, your whole life of work. And if somebody wants to get your information and you have a LinkedIn account, they're just going to have to go and say, I'm an alumni from Boise State. I'm from the Alumni Association. Click here to donate, or whatever that may be. All social media is, that's a risk, as it is your employee websites. So, if your website lists your staff, it would be very easy for an employee to maybe get an email from the business owner, the CEO, and somebody could just say, oh, hi, I'm the CEO, and I need you to do this while I'm away from the office. So it's really just mimicking somebody you know. And as you see here, the statistic, 91% of breaches start with spear phishing attacks. So when somebody gets an email from what seems like a legitimate source, there's a natural tendency for us to be trusting. You click on a link, and there you go. You're vulnerable. And I should say a little bit more about the clicking. So the phishing attacks will be an email that is telling you to click on a link or download an attachment. Once that happens, they may ask for some specific information. It may be like, enter your password here, or that downloading the attachment alone might just set things off to where you're officially, some malware has been downloaded to your device. So when you get these emails, the email themselves, you can just decide this is not legitimate. I'm marking it spam and not moving forward anymore. So it's not really a risk to open the email, but the risk comes in a phishing attack of when you click or open something moving forward. So here I have just a couple examples of phishing attacks. So here is an email. It looks generally, it looks okay. It's got your name in there. It's from PayPal. It's telling you your credit card's going to expire soon. Please click here to set it up. And at the very bottom here, you can see HTTP and the URL. That's showing you what would show up as you hover on a link. So that's important. If you think an email is suspicious, but you're not sure, you can always hover on a link to see if it looks like it's going to where it says it's going. So you hover on this link, you see HTTP and the //us.paypal. There's an indicator there. So you look at this one, and it tells you, you know it's a phishing attack. First off, I'll make it a little bigger. Credit card is spelled wrong. Secondly, this isn't a lot of information. So it's concise because people don't like to read a lot now, but it's very brief. It's just saying, go do this and go right here, right now to set it up. So you've got the misspelling. People misspell, though, so that really doesn't have to be an end-all, be-all. But you hover over the link, and you see that PayPal is spelled wrong. That's a pretty good indicator that this is not going to take you to the right place, the real, true PayPal site. And if it's taking you somewhere that it wants you to log in, you would see an HTTPS. The S indicates that it's a secure site, a legitimate secure site. So that is how you would look at this one and decide, you know what, I just need to put this in spam. I've got a couple more examples here. So here you might have a Bank of America account. You get this email and you think, oh shoot, I have an alert. Okay, I need to follow through on this. So you see here, first off, there's some formatting issues. So that immediately might set you off, like this doesn't even load right. I think Bank of America could put together an email that loads right. Secondly, you see to, dear customer. Now, not all emails that are from legitimate sources will have your name in them. Sometimes it'll just be thank you customer for, dear customer, whatever. But the fact that it actually says to and then dear customer is an indication that this might be a little shady. So you would expect to either see your name or nothing there indicating a specific person. And then finally, you'll see alerts in red, and you can see some sense of urgency. It's telling you your account is closed, and then there's alerts, and click here. Sense of urgency is very key. So that's your CEO emailing you, I need you to transfer this money immediately. That's an email that says something is overdue, you have to pay immediately. When you have that sense of urgency displayed in an email, you have to wonder, why are they trying to make me do this so quickly? Is it because there's a legitimate threat or a legitimate action that needs to be taken place, or is that sense of urgency designed to make you not look too deeply into a situation? So in this case, there's enough information for you to say, okay, it's poorly formatted, the dear customer, there's a sense of urgency. I'm not going to send this. I'm not going to click on anything. You can always go into your Bank of America account separately and log in and see if there's an issue. You can call Bank of America, or if you don't really think it's a serious issue at all and you think if it's a real problem, they'll contact me again, think that way. Think, okay, if somebody really needs me to transfer $100 in an hour and I don't do it, they'll call me in 50 minutes and say, is this going to happen in time? Don't be afraid to use a phone. We rely so much online, but it's okay to pick up a phone and call and say, is this real? And if it's coming from a coworker or CEO, they might be very surprised to hear you're receiving something like that. Whoops, sorry. So spoofing. Spoofing is similar to phishing in the sense that there's deception, and emails are kind of designed to mimic emails from somebody else. Spoofing is usually designed to mimic a website that's very common or a phone number. So here is a website that is spoofed. So you look at it and you think, okay, it's a Twitter. I'm just going to log into Twitter. That's fine. But again, you have to scan and look at indicators to make sure that you're on a website that makes sense and that this person isn't just taking your information. So you look at the top here, there's no S at the HTTPS. If you're logging into somewhere, you need to see that S. And then you see twitter.com, all of that stuff, and you kind of think, well, that's not just twitter.com. So this is a suspicious page. And you look, first off, you may or may not realize this, but it's an old login design. So it's not even the current login site. So it's outdated design. And then the URL isn't right. So you would just not proceed in this situation. Same with American Airlines. So here you've got a site, it looks very real. I mean, at first look, it looks fine. Again, you're missing that HTTPS. You've got in the URL, member is spelled wrong. And yeah, so it takes a little work to look at these. And the reason I just spent about 10 minutes to talk about this is because 91% of attacks start with spear phishing. You really have to look closely at this stuff. And when you have employees who are online, doing your business through emails, I mean, the reason I'm talking about this one so much is because this is such a common entryway for a business to become hacked and vulnerable. So it doesn't cost anything to take a couple seconds and scan things a little closer, and it can save your business tens of thousands of dollars and the risk of going out of business. So my takeaway for you guys there is focus on phishing. That step alone, and we do that here and internally at SBDC. That and our host universities, everybody is focusing on that because it is a big vulnerability. It takes no money, it takes a little time, and it protects your business. So the next topic to talk about is ransomware. Ransomware is malicious software designed to block access to your computer system until you pay money. So it's true ransom. They take your information and you don't get it back until you pay them. Ransomware, the people involved in ransomware, the hackers are sophisticated. They have customer service lines. They have deadlines. It's a really, as much of it is a bad thing, it's a really well-organized system to lock your information down. So 3 factors are involved with becoming vulnerable to ransomware. One is that human error. So when I talked about clicking or downloading something, ransomware is a consequence that can happen. You can give access to somebody who just shuts you down and says, that's it, you're not going any further until we get money. So having that education to not click on things is just so critical. So the first factor to become vulnerable is that human error. So somebody has to invite that into the system one way or the other. The second is that your information is not encrypted. So encrypting your information means that when somebody else goes to get it, they can't. You need to be able to give permission for them to access it. So if somebody steals your information, but it's encrypted, so they have it and they've locked you down temporarily, but what they don't have is access themselves. So they have something that's locked that they can't use. So that's important if you have, client information, credit card, social security number, something like that. So it's really bad that it's shut your business down and that you have to deal with this at this point. But what you know is at least that the people who have it can't use that information. So encrypting your data will protect to that end. It will mean that your client's data is still safe, even though it's putting you in a difficult situation. The second thing the third thing is backing up your data. So another issue is, if somebody takes your information and you have one file and that's where your information is, you need that information back because you don't have a duplicate, or the last time you backed up your data isn't even relevant. The information has all changed. So if somebody takes something from you, but then you have it still, they haven't really taken anything from you because you have a copy. So backing up your data and making sure you have an updated copy of your information will kind of squash the goals of somebody who's doing a ransomware attack against you also. So, if the information isn't encrypted, then that's a problem, because even though you can keep doing business because you have a backed up data, you have to deal with the fact that they now have your client's information. So it's really kind of like those 3 pieces all together will protect against ransomware. Let's see. So that was all under tip 1. The rest will be a little shorter, but I wanted to familiarize you guys with the things that are really going to apply to your business. So tip 2 in being cyber secure is making a plan. So we've now talked about some initial steps. Put those plans in place. Have a prevention plan using these tips, using our website, using other resources that are available for free online. Discuss, identify what all sorts of inventory you have of digital information and actual physical devices. Figure out how you're going to protect. Do you have the hardware and software in place? Do you update it frequently? And so I'm not going to go into too much detail of what the prevention plan truly looks like. On our website, we have a workbook plan, again, that Delaware put together. It's divided into the 5 chapters I talked about earlier. And it walks you through your business. It asks you questions, and what you come out with is a really good look at your business, a really good look at your vulnerabilities, and it also pushes you to make plans as to how to protect yourself against those vulnerabilities. So have a plan, have policies in place of, how to use your mobile device, how to do this and that, how to have a good password. Preventing, as I said at the beginning, takes about 80% of the risk away. But again, you cannot rely on not being hacked no matter how much you try to prevent it. So have a plan about response and recovery. So who are you going to call? Have a cyber incident response team in place. So have a cyber expert's phone number to call that you can call immediately. Know what, I didn't put this on here, what law enforcement people you need to alert about this. Maybe it's part of a bigger thing, or maybe it's just you, but you need to let them know. Have a lawyer in place, because there can be real implications if a lot of personal information of your clients gets out. You're probably going to need a lawyer to navigate through that. Talk to your HR person, because it could be employees' information that got released, and you're just going to have to deal with that. And if you're a big enough company, have a public relations person ready, because if this is going to make news, and it might, have them ready. Having a cyber attack has huge stigma, but it's really anybody's able to have that vulnerability. So have your team in place, understand what the roles of your team are, and again, we have some great resources online how to put together a cyber incident response team. So have a plan to prevent, have a plan to respond. I've alluded to this a couple times, but train your staff. They are the gatekeepers. So you can't say that your employee did something wrong and blame them, because you are the one responsible to train your staff. Train them when they're hired, train them annually, train them weekly, train them monthly, integrate it into your culture. Because there's so many moving parts to being cyber secure, as you're probably already seeing. So make sure your staff knows this and is engaged. It's not only your responsibility, and it's not them to blame if something happens. The most effective way is to focus on a few things. I just actually was on another call, and they said that, with the roles people have, you can really only provide 2 to 3 pieces of information to your staff every year that you can really ensure that they're going to integrate into their practice and the culture of cybersecurity. So make sure what you talk to them about is something they can put in action, not just like telling them what you're doing at the IT level. Make it practical and make it really simple for them, and integrate it. So I have here 70% experiential, 20% informal, and 10% formal. So the experiential is really interesting. So one thing we did here at the SBDC is we simulated a phishing attack on our staff. So we actually sent an email that was not legitimate to see who would and wouldn't click on things. So that really was effective for us. It got everybody thinking. Having those sorts of things rather than a sit-down formal training, integrating that as much as you can into the culture, putting up signs in the lunchroom, little just quick one-tip reminders in newsletters. Whatever you can do to integrate this into the culture is really important. And really quickly, just those 4 points to me: phishing, physical protection, smart passwords, updating software, and reporting suspicious behavior. That to me is a starting point. Those 5 points are really pretty easy to integrate. And so we'll talk a little bit more about those. I'm going to be conscious of time, so I might start speeding through this a little bit. Passwords. This is so easy, but still needs to be taught. Strong passwords are important. Every password for each account needs to be different. If somebody gets one, they get them all. If you can do two-factor authentication, if whatever you're logging into offers that, take advantage of it and require it. If somebody gets your password, but then they need to get a text that you received to fully log in, they still don't have access. That's very important. The strength of your password is more important than the frequency you change it. So you hear a lot, change the password every 90 days, every year, this and that. It's good to change your password, but it's much better. If you're changing it from cat to dog, that's not as good. So if you put in a really strong password, that's more important than changing it every 90 days. Passphrases are useful. So one complaint about that first point, having a unique one for each account, you can do the same word, such as passphrases right there. Don't use that one. You could do passphrases email, passphrases bank account. You can have the first part be similar and then change the second part. But passphrases are great because it's not just a series of random numbers, symbols, and letters. It actually makes sense and will be easy to recall, which might eliminate entirely the next point, having to store your passwords. If it's something easy enough to recall, then you don't have to write it down or put it into a system, but you probably will still have to do that. Most people have enough passwords if that's important. Store them securely. There are online password storers. I am paranoid enough to think that that's not the most safe way to store all of your passwords in one place. Physically storing them can work if you're really responsible for it, putting it somewhere far from where your computer is and unintuitive. So if there's a break-in, nobody's going to find it. Don't put it underneath your keyboard. So be smart about that. And require your staff to use passwords on any mobile devices. Don't let any phone or tablet or laptop be accessible without a password. Defining accounts. Access on need to have basis. So does your entire staff have access to QuickBooks? If so, why? That's a vulnerability, and somebody can make a mistake, this and that, but you always have to remember that an employee might intentionally do something malicious. So don't give more information than you need. If somebody needs access to QuickBooks for a couple months for a specific project, when that project ends, stop giving them access. Separate everybody and define the use needed by person, and have an employee exit policy. If somebody did have access to QuickBooks Online and then they quit, even if they quit in good terms, time to make sure that that account is deactivated and that they cannot log in anymore. So have a plan for when people leave. So really quickly, talk to partners. The Target breach that happened a couple of years ago happened because the HVAC contractor they had got access to their system, which opened up a huge vulnerability that we all know, the Target attack. It says they're $200 million cost, CEO fired. So make sure that anyone who might have access to your networks, your partners, are all being cyber secure. Have that conversation. And put it in writing. Make sure there's a written agreement if you're working with somebody who's going to have some sort of access, physical or digital, to your networks. As far as this goes, you're going to probably start seeing people who are doing the same to you. They're going to say, okay, you know, if we're going to work together, I need to know that you have a security plan in place. If you are looking for government contracting, starting in the new year, you have to have a cybersecurity plan in place in order to even qualify to get a contracting bid. So you're going to see this happen more and more. Stay current on updates. This WannaCry attack that happened on May 12th that was set off throughout the whole world, what they were targeting were people who didn't update a specific Microsoft operating system. So they went in through that vulnerability. If an update is available, you need to take care of it. You know, your security protections are jeopardized, and the businesses that have those programs won't help you if you're using an outdated system. So create a system to update your systems, whether you're scanning nightly, whether you receive automatic updates and you do it right away. Don't assume your employees are going to do any updates that pop up on their screen. Just have a system in place to make sure you're always operating with the most updated information. And then physical protection. You know, we talk about all this digital stuff, but do you ID somebody who says they're coming to work on your copier? Do you actually trust that person? Like, do you know who that person is? Does your receptionist know to not just let someone walk into your building? Is your server visible to the public? When you leave at the end of the day, what do you leave out on your desk? What do you lock? Do you know who the cleaning staff is? Don't forget about the physical aspect. You know, mobile devices. What are your rules for letting staff work in a coffee shop? You know, people can see over their shoulder and see what they're doing. Think about the physical aspect, because that's still very real. It's not all digital manipulation. Sometimes it's just, I went to the bathroom and left my laptop on the counter while I was at the coffee shop doing work, and now it's physically stolen. So be smart about the physical stuff. All right, second to last tip. Sorry, I know we're going a little over. I hope you're all still on. I can't see. But eliminate unnecessary data. So the more stuff you have to be stolen, the more, you know, the bigger risk. So know what information you have in the first place. Some businesses don't even know what they're taking from people. Purge old information and unused data, and don't ask for information you're not going to use. So a lot of times, I mean, even if you just go to like an expo or something and you get entered into a raffle, they'll ask for all of this personal information. And I know they're never going to use it, but then they're going to have it. And if something happens, they're going to have to deal with the vulnerability of having all that extra information. So do you really need to ask for X, Y, and Z from a client or a customer or a partner? And then you're storing that in your system. Do you really need to have those social security numbers, or is that just an added vulnerability that you're putting into your business? And do you need to have the client's information that you haven't dealt with in 10 years? Figure out what's needed for your business and get rid of everything else, because it's just a vulnerability if it's unnecessary and it's in the system. Finally, I'm not going to talk much about these at all, but some immediate things you could do that do cost money. Everything we just talked about doesn't cost money. Maybe I should have pointed that out earlier. That stuff is all free. It takes a little time, takes a little research, but it's all free. A couple things I would recommend you do if you are willing to pay costs, and these aren't in any particular order, but VPNs. So if you have people who do work on Wi-Fi for your business, get a VPN. Public Wi-Fi is dangerous. People can just basically watch what you're doing if you're on a shared public Wi-Fi. VPNs, I think it stands for Virtual Private Network. Somebody would basically log on to a private Wi-Fi, taking away any risk that a public Wi-Fi would be accessible to strangers who want to see your stuff. Cyber insurance. So, you know, you insure your business for other reasons. Cyber insurance is an option. It obviously is an added cost. And the cyber insurance world is really changing because of all the, you know, cybersecurity is a constantly evolving issue. But consider cyber insurance. That will give you a really great starting point. If something happens, you'll have a, you know, built-in assistance. It can really help with the costs of the digital forensics you might have to do. That can be a great assistance. Hardware and software, have the stuff in your, you know, I've emphasized a lot that it's about the person, it's about the people. That's a big part of it. It's certainly part of the technical aspect too, or a technical aspect is certainly part of that too. Have the appropriate hardware and software on your systems, updated currently to protect your business. Those do cost, but they're important as well. And then know who your on-call cyber expert would be. So I said earlier that you'd have a cyber incident response team. You know, talk to somebody. Maybe you have to pay a retainer. I'm not actually super familiar with how that cost system works, but you may have to go to an external expert. So even just hiring them to just do a test to figure out where you're at, you know, you might have to pay for external assistance, but you have to decide if that's worth, you know, the comfort of protecting your business 80% more than it is currently. So those cost money, but you know, you want to protect your business. So that's all I've got. I am sorry I went over a couple minutes. The SBDC is here to help. So we have been working on our cyber program for about a year, maybe a year and a half, and we have some amazing tools. I wanted to show you a video we put together, but it would have eaten up a good amount of time. It's 6 minutes long, and I don't want to take that. But go on our website, see what we have, and then let us know what you want. If this training was helpful, if something I said in this training you would like to, you know, something elaborated on, if you want one-on-one consulting, what kind of resource tools you'd need, we're here to help you. So let us know what it is you need from us to help make your business more secure. And so with that, I am going to try and see if there's any questions. So I don't see any questions. If there's anyone on who can see any questions, I will take them. Otherwise, I'll wait a minute just to make sure nothing pops up. But other than that, this, like Brian said at the beginning, this will be available online. And, oh, okay, I do see. VPN, okay. Give me 1 second. The question is, what is a popular VPN provider? I don't purchase those myself. We work through our university. I know Boise State uses Cisco. There are some that are free, but I don't know a full list of those. That is something I can follow up on, though, and share with you guys later and put on the website. But Cisco, I know, is the one that our university uses. And you can just search for free VPNs. Obviously, don't fall for that too easily where you don't vet them. Make sure that's not just a trick to get them to have you download something. But there are free ones out there. Anybody else have some questions? All right. Well, thank you guys very much. And like I said, please let the SBDC know if there are specific tools you want. We are here to help you guys. What was the title of this one? Okay. Okay, so this webinar's title is Top Tips for Protecting Your Dollars, Data, and Business. And the link to our website is idahosbdc.org/cyber. Our website is a 4-page site that we have a homepage that shows the video, and I'll type that in really quickly just so you guys can have it in writing. So this is our, if everybody can see that, maybe not, IdahoSBDC.org/cyber is our website. The homepage of that has the video that we show. The pages we have on there, one is for prevent, so there's precautionary things and educational information to kind of catch you up to speed on cyber stuff. The second page is respond, so that has information on how to create a good response plan, what to do, who to call in the case of an attack. And the third subpage we have is cyber tips and news. So there I kind of post little informational blurbs, you know, describing in a little more detail how to make a passphrase or talking about recent attacks, especially in the state of Idaho. I think people think that Idaho isn't vulnerable, and it is. So Idaho Department of Labor was recently attacked, and Idaho Fish and Game. So the cyber links and tips are it's kind of one of the more dynamic pages, so it'll have current information and news and tips, as its title says. So that's a little bit of what our page is. Any other questions? All right, folks. Well, thank you for listening. I hope you all have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. And, oh, I wanted to say my email is lauramatthews@boisestate.edu. That is LauraMatthews@boisestate.edu, and I'll type that in too. Thank you all. Have a great day.